Good day everyone, my name is Pelgrin John Stewart A and I am from BSc 3-5. So today, or this hour, we will be talking about the topic given to me entitled Terrorist Tactics or Terrorist Tactics. And so let's share some information and some insights about this topic. So please bear with me as I discuss to you some of my researches about this particular topic. So without further ado, let's start this discussion. So before we go to the exact discussion, I will first discuss to you the main objectives of my reporting. First, at the end of this discussion, the student or the listener must differentiate the differentiate between strategies and between tactics. Number two is to be informed and to know the different tactics used by terrorists. And number three, to have an idea why terrorist groups choose specific tactics based on their goals and beliefs. And the last objective for this reporting is that to be aware on what are the effects of the terrorist acts to the community and to the people. So for our first objective, let's discuss about the difference between strategies and tactics. So firstly, when we say strategies, look at the PPT or the PowerPoint presented to your screen. So strategy defines your long-term goals and how you're planning to achieve them. In other words, your strategy gives you the path you need toward achieving your organization's vision. And tactics are much more concrete and are often oriented towards smaller steps and a shorter time frame along the way. They involve best practices, specific plans, and resources. So to make it more clear, strategy is a big plan or it is your overall goal. And it's what you want to achieve in the long run. So when we say tactics, it means it is the specific steps or the simple steps or concrete steps that you need to do to achieve your goal. It is also the actions taken to make the big plan happen. I will give you some example to make it more clear to your understanding. So, for example, in a football game, your strategy, it is your main goal, or this is the goal you want to achieve. So, for example, in football, your strategy is to win and to get the gold medal or the overall champion or the trophy itself. So, that is your strategy. And the tactics you need to do or the action you need to take to get that strategy is like defending or passing the ball or like making a play and setting up a play to get a good score. And as long as you maintain that steps, that actions, it will lead to your strategy to win the football. Another example is like when you want to lose weight 10 kilograms in just 6 months. That is your strategy and that is your goal. And in order to achieve that goal, to lose 10 kilograms in just 6 months, your tactics will be, it would include the number of days you exercise in a week or making a meal plan a day, like that, and tracking your calorie intake. So let's relate this to terrorist. So there are times that the terrorist groups, their strategy was to inflict massive fear or to bring political change. That is their goal. And that is their mission. And the tactics would be on how or what are the specific actions they should take to inflict massive fear or to bring political change. So now let's move on to the next part of our discussion. The different kinds of the tactics that terrorist groups are using. So on the first or the number one tactics that are that the terrorist groups are using based on my research is what we call the direct attacks. There are 6 basic types of tactics that terrorist groups are using. It includes hijackings, kidnappings, bombings, or assassination, armed assaults, and barricade hostage incidents. A group's objectives and organization capabilities dedicate with tactics it uses. As I said earlier, the first tactics that terrorist groups are using are what we call direct attacks. Because the reason behind they doing this is because they want to cause shock and fear to the people, or this fear can make people feel unsafe in their daily lives. And another reason why they do these direct attacks is because they want attention and publicity. They want their message to be heard and violent acts to be known by the government itself. And another thing is to put pressure on the government, because another reason why terrorist groups doing this because they want to bring political change. So that is the first tactics that they're using, direct attacks. So the second one or the another tactics that terrorist groups have been using is what we call the cyber terrorism, or also known as digital terrorism. It is the use of computers and information technology to cause harmful attack, financial gain, gain access to sensitive or classified information, or even just to spread fear in the society. So there are also reasons why they use this online or cyber terrorism. They use the internet to enter our or the government security. The first reason is because this is more cheaper than like bombing or assassinating or hijacking. Through the use of gadgets, our professional technology users, they can enter, they can evade websites, any links that has connected to the government. Another reason is because in internet, or they can spread it, they can spread more news, fake news to inflict massive fear. Because in social media, you can post, or the internet, you can post anonymously without knowing their identity. And another reason why they are using the internet or the computer, because as I said, it is more anonymously, or you can post without directly knowing that it is you, because stealth is one of their most potent weapons, which means many of us are unaware of the big damages they are inflicting. And according to Tom Ridge, terrorists can sit at one computer connected to one network and can relate can create worldwide havoc. And it's also said that they necessarily don't need a bomb or explosive to cripple a sector of the economy or shut down a power grid. So it shows that cyber terrorism, or the internet, is another tactic used by the terrorist groups to inflict or to achieve their strategy. So let's go to the next tactics that the terrorist groups have been using, and it is what we call the guerrilla tactics, or what we call they are also similar in the terrorists or the guerrillas. Insurgents typically these terrorists don't literally wear any uniform or identified insignia, and in other words, they blend with the local population. They're very difficult to distinguish from innocent civilians. In other words, they seek to conceal themselves. And because of this other tactics, as a blending in the society for less being caught, they have reasons behind it. And one reason they have is what we call to execute their surprise attacks. Realize, or imagine, if you are in a park walking with many people, you don't know who really the terrorists are, because they blend, and that is their tactics. And they can easily execute surprise attacks. Another thing is because the mobility, because of that tactics blending in the society, they can operate in a small, and allowing them to strike quickly and to catch the opponents off guard. Another reason why they are using these tactics, because it's for their mobility. They can operate in small and mobile units, allowing them to strike quickly and retreat before counter attack happens. And they also have the tactics that they are using, what we call the use of terrain. They use such as forests or urban areas for cover and concealment. So another tactics that terrorist groups are using is what we call the recruitment tactics. Like any organizations, terrorist groups must recruit to sustain their membership, and they want to add more members, more people, more young men, children to their group for what we call this to continue what they want, and they believe that there is strength in numbers. And terrorist recruitment is a very long process and time consuming, but it is well planned and carefully conducted by the full membership of terrorist group. For example, the terrorist group, what we call Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda, they produced a recruitment manual for the full-time members of this can use this guide or this manual entitled A Course in the Art of Recruiting. So this manual is what they are using to convince, to indoctrinate their targeted, or their the people they want to recruit. So there are two things that found often to co-occur in terrorists and to strongly influence decisions to enter terrorist organization and to engage in terrorist activities. It is because the people may experience injustice from their government, or they want to be in the community or the sense of belonging. So let's go to the third part of our discussion, and this is what we call the terrorist, or the motivations of terrorists, or what is the reason behind terrorist groups choosing specific tactics. By selecting carefully their specific tactics, terrorist groups aim to enhance their effectiveness, to achieve their goals and maximize the impact of their actions on the society. And carefully choosing their specific tactics, their aim is to achieve the greatest psychological and physical impact with their specific action. So that's why they are choosing carefully their specific tactics based on their main goals. And according to Marta Crenshaw, there are at least four categories of motivation among terrorists why they choose specific tactics for their specific goals. The first is the opportunity for action. Number two is the need to belong. Number three, the desire for social status. And number four, the acquisition of material reward. So for example, terrorist groups want to have a political status. And what are the specific tactics that they will be using? Maybe they could use violence and fear tactics. They should use targeted assassination, which they could kill political leaders or influencers to weaken the government's authority. Another tactics that they can use if they want political status is bombings and attacks. Large-scale attacks like bombings or shootings aim at gaining attention or making the government look weak. Or another thing, hostage taking. Holding important people captive to bargain for political concessions or media attention. So that are the specific tactics that they will be using to achieve what they want, or what is their specific strategy. So if their strategy is to get or to inflict a massive fear, they should use, or they would use bombings in large areas, which shows that the government is weak and the feeling of being unsafe. So that thing would make the people feel unsafe. So let's go to the last topic of this reporting. So next topic would be the effects of terrorist attacks. The first thing that will be affected in these terrorist attacks was the effects to the individuals. The physical consequences of terrorism-related acts and violations can include broken bones, soft tissue, injuries, disability, long-term chronic pain, and sensory disturbance. Like, for example, after the bombing, the people will experience sensory disturbance, or they can experience injury, being, like, for example, being hit by a big stone by the explosion or by the bombing used by the terrorist groups. And the first thing that will be affected in these terrorist acts will be the person itself, or the civilians itself. And the effects of these two individuals is physical harms, injuries, and disabilities. Survivors of terrorist attacks often suffer injuries such as burns, amputations, and long-term disabilities. Another thing is the loss of loved ones, or the loss of life. Families who lose loved ones in terrorist attacks are left with immense grief, and survivors can struggle with survivors. So that is the first thing that was being affected after the terrorist attacks. And according to the victimological perspective, there are three circles or personal victimization. The first one is the person, or those who experience suffer, or those who suffer harm directly. The second is the family or the relatives of the primary victim. And the third one that was affected are those who observed or seen those events. So another thing that affected by the terrorist attacks is what we call the economy. Aside from the physical damage, terrorism has far-reaching negative impacts due to the market uncertainty created. Effects of terrorists to the economy is the loss of livelihood. Individuals may lose their jobs or business due to attacks on their workplaces or the economic instability that follows terrorism. Another reason why economy will be affected is through the medical cost. Those injured in attacks may face high medical expenses for treatment and rehabilitation. leading to financial stress because that is the what we call this, that is the cargo of the government. So that are the some reasons why the economy is affected. Not just the physical, the economy have been affected by the terrorist attacks. Another thing that that is affected after terrorist attacks is the mental health of the individuals. Psychological impact of terrorism-related violations experienced at an individual level. Affected societies may suffer collective trauma, which is particularly the case where attacks are targeted against a particular group or community. Individuals exposed to terrorism often develop a long-term fear and anxiety, especially in public places, as they feel unsafe. Another reason is after those events, some people also have or get PTSD or the post-traumatic stress. This or many survivors or witnesses of terrorist attacks develop PTSD, which can cause flashbacks, nightmares, and emotional numbness. Another is the depression. The loss of loved ones, witnessing violence, or living under constant threat can lead to deep sadness and depression. Some people may also experience grief and anger or revenge. Some individuals may develop feelings of anger or a desire for revenge, leading to further cycle of violence. Another effects to mental health is people may practice changes in behavior like avoidance of public spaces and what we call this being overly alert and paranoid, constantly fearing that another attack could happen. So lastly, another thing that has been affected by terrorist attacks was effect to property. The most immediate and measurable impact of terrorism is physical destruction. Terrorists destroy existing buildings, machineries, transportation systems, workers, and other economic resources. As part of their tactics, the direct attacks, the first thing that is affected while they doing their direct attacks is the property. They do this because they want the people to feel unsafe of the government. So the measurable impact of terrorism is the loss of different properties and government properties like buildings and transportations. So to sum it all up, I realized that terrorist groups will not perform their work without proper planning, strategy, and specific tactic to achieve what they want to bring. To bring massive fear and to bring political change and to destroy the public sense of security in the places most familiar to them. I also realized that the members of these terrorist groups are not just normal people or normal persons, but instead, sometimes they are the ones who have powers or of high degree. Another thing is that I've learned that they have different motive in each specific tactic that they will be using, not just do bombing, hijacking, or etc., but they have motive behind it. I was amazed on how their members recruit new people entering their group. Imagine having the knowledge to choose the right person to talk to and having the courage to convince them is a great skill. Another thing is that I've gained information in the different areas that was affected by terrorism, which needs to be addressed. And as a student, I am now enlightened with the different tactics that terrorist groups have been using, and I want to learn more about this topic to be aware as a civilian. So that's all, and thank you for your time, and I hope you learned and you gained information during those discussion. So I hope this reporting or this topic will give you a little insight or knowledge about the topic terrorist tactics. And again, I am Peregrine John Stuart A from BSc 3-5, and I hope you learned something. Thank you.